conceptual perspective, things people talk about in design success. All of the elements they think, intelligence, expertise.
What other doors could they close?
Hey, how much am I willing to give up and commitment, and are not committed to the struggle, acquiescing to the struggle, they're committed.
Careful who you leave toeless.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you. Hope that everybody is having a good day. I hope that you have had a powerful week, a prosperous week, that you have begun to experience the true nature of a universal breakthrough, something I'm going to talk about today. I'm really excited about where I am, what's going on with me personally, what's going on with my marriage, what's going on with my business endeavors, what's going on with my community involvement. It comes with a lot of challenges. I wish I could tell you that you can set your standards high, your sights high, and then everything is smooth. No, the higher you look, the more turbulence you experience. But the reward is what it's about. It's the outcome that you're striving for, not the travel or the journey to be easy. And a lot of people lose sight of that. So I'm excited about where things are going. I'm excited about what has been done thus far, but more importantly, about what's to come. And I want you to take on that same type of excitement in your life, because that excitement has a level of energy. It is a reflection of what you're expecting. It creates an attitude and an environment of anticipation, which is all positive, which is all impactful in the state of existence and being that you're in, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and physically. It's important that you are in control of how you're thinking. Not simply what you're thinking about, but how you're thinking, because you could take the same situation, put it in front of two different people, and they're going to see it differently. And how they see it is going to impact how they get through it. Some people are going to see a situation as a problem. Others are going to see it as a puzzle. Others are going to see it as an opportunity. And the last two are going to experience something completely different than the first. And the last of them all is going to definitely achieve more. When you see it as a puzzle, you see it as being solvable. So it doesn't take you the same way as the person that sees it as a problem. People who see things as problems don't see themselves as the solution. When you start to think of things as a puzzle, you see yourself as being able to solve it. That's what happens with puzzles. You solve puzzles. But when you see it as an opportunity, you're looking at it from an entire different, you're starting to understand that the challenge brings with it reward. And so the challenge doesn't shake you. It doesn't move you. It actually gets you amped up. Why? Because you know you're built for it. You know that there's something on the inside of you that prepares you for just about everything that you're going to ever face in life, that in this life, anything you encounter, you're built for it already. Life has trained you for it. You might not like it. It doesn't mean it's going to feel good. Doesn't mean, but it means I'm built for it. And the thing is, I have to go through it in order to achieve the reward associated with it, right? That's the thing that I want you to really carry with you today. Now, I've talked to you for over a year now about quantum physics and how the universal laws work in conjunction with quantum physics. I've talked to you about the correlation between quantum physics and faith. I've talked to you about quantum physics and manifestation and creation. I've talked to you about it in so many different ways. So what I want to try to do today is actually take you on a little short journey and show you how you can practically apply the laws of quantum physics with everything else. And I want you to get excited about this, because this is where faith and science meet. And God is still in the midst of it all, because there's no place that God isn't present, right? And we're going to talk about this, but not from a religious dogmatic perspective, because God isn't something that you can lock in. Because when you think you know everything, when you think you know everything about God, you come to find out you're not even close, because God is fluent. God is infinite. And anything that's infinite means that when you think you got it all, you haven't come close. Why? Because he's infinite. You never get it all. But when you try to put God in this box that it's this, or this, or it's bust, You lose sight of so much that's in front of you. You're locked into an idea you can't escape, and the idea becomes the parameters of your achievement, of your performance, of your state of mind, of your existence. You have to be able to escape the dogma in order to truly embrace the power. So we're going to get into that, but before I do, I want to remind you that you need to get Critical Mass. Critical Mass is my 20th book. I'm still excited about this book, even though I'm about to drop I Am in a week. I'm excited about I Am. It's going to be great. I put a lot of work in. It's probably the hardest work I've put together because I've gone back so many times to revisit it and revamp it. But Critical Mass was book number 20. It was a milestone. It was a shift in the way that I do things. It was a representation of me moving to the next level. I always talk about next level. If you're not striving to achieve the next level, then you're not living up to the demand of your design and the demand of your purpose of being here on earth. And so Critical Mass is that 20th book. I Am is the 21st book. Both of them are the first two books in a 6-book series on personal development, where we're going to talk about quantum physics, talk about faith, talk about personal achievement, talk about perseverance, and so much more. And excuse me, acknowledging the little lady, the wife. She's the one person that can break in and get a response. Anyway, what I want to do is get that. Now you can actually go to the Critical Mass link. You can either get Critical Mass or you can get the bundle of Critical Mass and I Am at a reduced price. And so I'm excited about that. Do that. For those people who would like to know what it is like to work with me in a one-on-one situation, I do that with a select group of people, and we're getting unbelievable results. If you want to know what that's like, fill out the questionnaire that's in there for your breakthrough session, your free breakthrough session. Email it to the support team. They're going to schedule you for a one-on-one 30-minute breakthrough session, which normally goes past the 30 minutes, but we try to align it with that. And you'll get to see what it's like to work with me and get to see what a lot of people are experiencing and being able to see what can happen in 30 minutes. Once you know what can happen in 30 minutes, you start to say, well, what can happen in a week? What can happen in a month? And you start to look at life differently. And I have a blast with these things. It takes up a lot of my time, but because I'm being fed energy-wise, and I understand that dynamic, I have a blast. So if you want to do that as well. Okay, now let's talk quantum physics. Now I'm going to start with an idea. Pain is temporary, quitting lasts a lifetime. What does that mean? The pain you're going through as a part of your process, the pain you're going through, the pain and discomfort you're going through as a part of your process is not going to last forever. It is not the story of your life. It only becomes enduring when you identify with the pain more than the destiny. When you are literally focusing on what you're going through more than what you're accomplishing. When you're focusing more on what you're going through than where it's taking you, then it becomes this big, huge thing that consumes you. But pain is temporary. Here's the thing, when you quit, the ramifications of you quitting last a lifetime. Even if you come back to it later in life, you're still dealing with the ramifications of quitting. There is a consequence to quitting. And then the illusion that is in front of you that is trying to convince you to quit doesn't stand up when it's all said and done. What do I mean by that? When you're going through something and it's difficult and it's painful and it's really pressing you, right? You start to say, man, if I just lay this down, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe that's it. It's not for me. And the illusion that you're basing this now decision on is that when I lay this down, it's going to be, more comfortable for me. It's going to be more easy for me. Everything's going to go back to being cool. I'm going to be okay. It's an illusion. Why? Because you can't run for life. See, life isn't designed to only come after you when you're going after something. Now, it will be challenging when you decide to go after something grand. When you decide to go after something great, it's definitely going to be challenging. Why? It's a part of the process. You're paying a cost to be the boss. You're paying a cost to excel. You're paying a cost to rise. So what's going to happen? You're going to actually get to a point where the more you raise the standard, the more challenging it becomes. It's like all of the people, I tell people all the time, if you want what other people don't have, you got to be the person that's willing to do what other people won't do. And most people aren't willing to do what most people aren't willing to do. Most people have this boundary or this box that they will put in, and getting outside that box in and of itself is uncomfortable. Number one is because we are used to operating in a crowd, and getting outside of the box opens up so much space, and we don't know how to act in space. See, we got this social thing that's so connected with us that we look around us, and as long as other people are going through what we're going through, we become okay with it. We become content in being less than what we can be, because being content is what everybody's doing. See, average is the default of failure to activate your potential and put it to use. Just sitting around and showing up will make you average. If everybody goes to work, puts in enough work, just enough not to get fired, the boss pays them just enough not to quit, there's no true fulfillment in it, but you get up because why? I gotta go to work, I gotta pay the bills for the stuff that I've gotten on credit that I really didn't need, so that other people will look at me and think I'm the bomb, because that's the game that's being played. But the thing is, I've got all the mechanisms or the makings of something that looks good, but I don't feel good because I'm not operating in my potential. I'm not operating in my purpose. I'm not living at the level of my design. I'm simply existing. I'm on default. So therefore, by that very nature, I'm average. Now, average feels okay. Doesn't feel grand and great, but it feels okay. Why? Because I'm not the only one average. It's more people average than not. I'm not as good as the people who are exceptional, who are excellent, who are extraordinary, who are phenomenal, but it's so few of them anyway. I am in that, but the good thing is I'm not as bad as some of the people that are doing the worst in life, that are going through the worst things in life. So I'm not that bad. I'm right around here where everybody else is flowing at. We have actually developed a culture where being average is acceptable. Let's go to academia, the place where it starts. Well, in some people, it actually starts in the home. But let's go to the first systemic introduction to being average and it being acceptable. You can literally get into most universities with a 2.0 or a 2.5 grade point average. Average. I'm not excelling in anything, just average, and I'm accepted. I passed. Just passing is acceptable. Some people are celebrating their average accomplishments because they passed, not realizing the ability for them to go so much higher if they would challenge themselves. And why challenge myself when everybody else is cool and I'm average? Average means most people will accept me as I am. But then if I raise the standard, it comes with challenges. If I raise the standard, it comes with more difficult endeavors. It requires more of me. Now I want you to really focus in, because I'm going to use some scripture to talk about a universal idea. Now, I don't want you to approach what I'm going to show you here from a dogmatic or religious perspective, because it's going to lock you in a box. You're going to miss everything. I want you to see God as unbounded, boundless, limitless, infinite. And he's trying to work. See, the whole thing is when you tie God up with all these little religious knots and make it like this, and you start to figure out it's so hard to get next to God. It's so hard to get God to hear me. So, see, the problem is this here is going to tick some people off, especially religious people. But again, I never came and decided I was going to do what I was going to do to be popular or to make friends. I decided to do what I'm going to do because I believe that I can help people become better. I can help improve lives. And so I do this
at no charge. This will go on multiple channels and it'll be up as long as the channels are up, and it'll serve people who will come along, never meet me, never speak to me, may never watch another one of my videos, but it'll trigger something. And that's what I want to do. So I'm not here to be popular. I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to make friends. Sometimes I will. Sometimes people will love me, but this one's going to hurt a lot of religious, dogmatic people. You don't truly know God until you are able to recognize God in you. Let me say that one more time. You don't truly know God until you are able to recognize God in you. As long as God is some distant thing to you, as long as God is somebody on a throne somewhere, as long as God is somebody looking down, judging, and you can't see God in you, when you look at you, you don't know God. If you think about your father, if you know your father, or you think about your mother, there's something inside of you, male or female, that when you look at yourself, you can see your mom and you can see your dad. It may be in your thinking, it may be in your appearance, it may be in your personality, but it's something about your mom and your dad that you can see in you, and yet you are connecting with someone you call the ultimate father, and you can't see them in you. Because see, seeing them in you is the first step to believing anything is possible. You gotta get that point. You gotta get that understanding. See, that right there shakes a lot of things for a lot of people. But hey, that's where it starts. Now I'm going to use this scripture that I promised I was going to use. I'm going to paraphrase here because in the English language it isn't accurately. No matter what version or interpretation used, is not going to be accurate to what was actually written in the Hebrew when this was initially written, and when it was written before that, and it was written before that. But we're not here for that. But we're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 28. And we're going to focus specifically, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but we're going to focus on 12 and 13. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 13. And we're going to talk about, first of all, this is what God is saying. Hey, when you roll with me, and you understand and you develop this relationship with me and you rolling with me, there are certain things you can expect, like clockwork, like laws to unfold in your life. But I want to get to a certain point. It says in 11, it says, the Lord will make you abound in prosperity, in the offspring of your body, in the offspring of your beast, in the produce of your ground, in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers. But it doesn't stop there. It goes on, I'm stopping short. Then it goes on to 12, said the Lord will open for you his good storehouse, so that the work of your hands, and you shall, and here's the thing right here. Here's the thing right here. Said, you shall lend to many and never borrow. And I'm looking at it and I'm breaking it down and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, this isn't simply a promise. It is a presentation of what blessings look like. See, what we try to do, listen to me, please. What we try to do is we try to compartmentalize God, the universe, this infinite consciousness and wisdom that we have access to. We compartmentalize it. We compartmentalize faith. We compartmentalize science. We compartmentalize action. We compartmentalize when the true nature is God is fluent and it's all present, it's all active, and it all works together. That's why some people believe that other people have favorite this type of favoritism, experiencing favoritism with God, because you're compartmentalizing. You're not activating. You're thinking solely by saying, I know God, that magic will happen in your life. And you're frustrated because it's not happening the way Don is having it, the way Rakeem is having it, the way Jeff is having it, the way whoever is having it. It's not flowing like that in your life. So something's got to be wrong with God. And you're missing that there is a level of understanding totality. So you can't have quantum physics without faith. Can't have faith without quantum physics. There are dynamics working together. You can't have favor without faith. There is no favor without faith. There is no faith without quantum physics. There's no quantum physics without faith. There is none of it without engaged activity and knowledge of God. And I'm not talking from a religious perspective. I'm asking you to understand how God's operating specifically and solely in you, not anybody else. A lot of people right now today are living their religious lives based on a story somebody else told them about their relationship with God. And they're wondering why they don't have access to the power. Here's why. I've heard a lot of stories about Bill Gates, sorry. I don't know where that came from. Bill Gates. But I've never met him, don't know him, never dealt with him. So I don't have any expectations that Bill Gates will ever be able to do anything for me based on where I am now and what I know about him, because what I know about him was somebody else's story, somebody else's engagement. I never took the time to get to know Bill, so I don't have any expectations. It's the same way with God. Somebody told you about God, gave you their version of God, told you how God operated for them, and you took that as being universal, general, and all-encompassing. And if it doesn't work the way they said it doesn't work, then it's not God's will. If it doesn't work the way they say it's going to work, it's not happening for whatever reason. And the truth of the matter is, it's not happening because you never took the time to know God personally for yourself. And it's a one-on-one thing. God deals with you based on you, not based on something somebody told you. Oh, I'm probably stepping on some toes and upsetting some people, but I'm not here, again, to be a friend. I'm here to get you to wake up. If you are from a family where there are siblings, as much as the parents try to sit up and say, I don't see my kids differently, I love all my kids the same. The truth of the matter is that there's a different relationship that develops over time with each one of those kids that determines how that parent deals with that child. And I guarantee you, by the time they reach the teenage years, every situation is different based on that relationship. And it moves into adulthood. I love all my kids, I do, and I'll go to hell and back from, but I deal with each and every one of them differently. Why? Because the relationship demands how I handle them. And you expect God to be different. You're trying to ride on somebody else's faith. You're trying to ride on what somebody else told you, and there's no emotional connection to that because you didn't experience it. You're trying to sit up and ride somebody else's faith because they told you and it sounded good and it tantalized your emotional center. So you said, hey, this is what it's about. But when it didn't work, you start saying it's not God. No, God said, I want you to see me in you. When you see me in you, you see what I'm doing. You trust me to do it. See, that's why I could trust my father when he was alive, my grandfather when he was alive. Why? We had a relationship. I wasn't living with my grandfather off what my mother told me. I was living on what I had developed with him. And the more it developed, the more I trusted him. It's the same thing. You're out there trying to make some things happen. But let's go back to this thing. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. There's one part I want to. The lender versus the borrower. You say, you shall lend to many nations and never borrow. That's considered a blessing because this is what this whole chapter is about. It's about when you ride with me, all these blessings, the word that was used in Hebrew was interpreted as overtake you. See, if you're not being overtaken by blessings, you got to step back and start asking yourself some questions. Now, don't point the finger at the other person. Don't point the finger at all the different places you can. If you're not being overtaken, you got to ask yourself why, because it's there for the taking. No, I'm not telling you it's easy. No, I'm not telling you you just snap your finger and say you believe. I'm telling you there are some people that worked on their breakthrough for 10 and 15 years before they saw any fruit come to bear, but they refused to step away from what they expected and anticipated from God and the universe. And then when it did come, for every hour they put into it, they were rewarded for their faithfulness. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. Some of y'all want the quick fix. Y'all want a Band-Aid on it. And a bunch of you are out there are literally dying spiritually because you're putting band-aids on bullet wounds. Yeah, I bet y'all didn't expect this on the Quantum Physics Friday, did you? I know you didn't expect this on Quantum Physics Friday. See, no. You was expecting me to be talking about atoms and energy and hertz and all that other stuff. And all of that plays a role into it. You don't compartmentalize it out. You just understand that that's just simply the way the unique and infinite mind of God created the world to respond to faith. That's all quantum physics is. See, the moment I have a thought in my head, that thought is based off of a belief. Just like if I'm walking down the street and I see a pit bull, I literally grew up rearing those dogs. I grew up loving those dogs. I had those dogs in my house with my kids. And I know that they act how you teach them to act, and that they actually have the closest emotions to human emotions of any dog. And they're loving and very protective of children. You can train them to be killers by the way you treat them, which is the same can be said for humans. But what I can tell you is, if I'm walking down the street and I see a pit bull, the average person's response to it is to run, to stop, to turn around. That's the average person's response. Why? Because something in their childhood said the dog is dangerous. Something in my childhood says that dog has a loving spirit and even when I run into the meaner ones, I never back down because I understand how to deal with the dog, even when it's being aggressive. I'm standing taller than you. I have the advantage, especially if it's only one of you. I just have to know how to. But see, when you've been through the experience, you don't become shaken by the condition. Please pay attention to what I'm trying to tell you. So my belief about the dog changes the way I engage the dog. So what happens? Based off my belief, I'm having a thought about the dog. The thought is going to have what? Energy. Your thoughts have physicality. When you think, you produce energy. This is proven now. You can measure the energy of a person thinking by hertz. When you're angry, when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're jealous, when you're envious, all of those things, when you're wishing wrong on people, when you're wishing bad on people, that's low hertz, low vibration. And we've shown what that produces, not just in outcomes down the line, it impacts your health. It actually activates disease genes. We all know this, the study of epigenetics. I've written on it extensively. I've spoken on it extensively. You're literally, through your experiences, determining how much of a risk you are at getting sick. While, I know people who have literally smoked for decades, no cancer. I know people have never picked up a cigarette, lung cancer. You have to have a reason to explain that when so much of lung cancer is being tied to cigarettes. And I'm not saying they don't cause it. I'm saying that there has to be a number of disease genes. In order to get cancer, you're talking about 13 different genes being turned on and expressing themselves, all disease genes, before you can get any form of cancer. Then depending on what type of cancer, you got to have more genes on. So just having one trigger is not enough. You got to have, and what happens is you look at people, and a lot of people are in bad places with worry, anxiety, fear, all of the things. And if you come from a background where you are experiencing life through the lens of the paradigm of an African American, you were born into stress. You were born into a stressful, fearful situation. If you're a black man and you're aware of what's going on around you now, you walk out of the house every day with a certain level of anxiety because you might not come back home. But that's also impacting your genetic expression, which can lead to diseases. You got to learn how to control it. See, faith is so much more than what we make it out to be. Faith is so much more than what we make it out to be. It's not simply, if I hope for something and wish for it hard enough, maybe God will give it to me. No, it's about understanding that my thoughts have energy, and my thoughts are the initial and immediate manifestation of my truth and my reality. Now, my truth and my reality does not have to line up with the facts. That's what faith is. Faith is the transcendence of the facts. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. What does that mean? When I can't reason it, when I can't rationalize it, when it doesn't look like I want it to look, I still know that it's going to happen. That's faith. So then it stands that faith allows you to manifest. Matter of fact, faith says the moment I think it, I've manifested. What we know now is that if I can conceive it in my mind, no matter how far-fetched it may seem, even to myself, if I can conceive it in my mind, that's God's evidence that it's possible. And people have asked me, Doc, how is that? You talking some crazy stuff about what you're going to do. Yeah, I was talking crazy stuff when I told somebody 20 years ago that I was going to write 30 books. Here I am 21 books in, and I'm just 52. And if I live a full life, I'm probably going to double that. And that's just one thing. Told somebody I was going to start more than 40 companies. I'm almost at 50. It's not easy, and they ain't all pouring and gushing out money, but they're winning. They are helping, they're blessing, and they're growing. And they're creating progress, not just in my life, but the life of my family and those around me. I'm having an impact. And no matter how much somebody says or what somebody says, they can't change the fact that I'm having an impact. They can't change the fact that I'm touching lives. They can't change the fact. Because see, I got the receipts. But let's get back. So you got this faith thing, right? You got this faith thing, and you're looking at it. But see, what here's this: when I think it, it's God's evidence. They're like, well, how do you say that's God's evidence? Well, you believe God is good, don't you? Yes. You don't believe that God would do something to you just for the sake of making you feel miserable, do you? No. So that means you think God wants what's best for you, right? Right. So tell me, how good would God actually be if he would allow you to be able to conceive something in your mind that you could never touch, that you could never have, that you could never create, that you could never bring to fruition? Wouldn't that be cruel? Absolutely. Well, then you got to know that if God allows you to conceive it in your mind, that it's possible. And that's all you need to know is the possibility. Matter of fact, it says, actually in scripture says, there shall be nothing impossible. There will be nothing impossible for you. But then we go stick in a conditional clause onto the back of the statement. When I check it and I look at it, it doesn't have a conditional clause to it. There isn't nothing shall be impossible except or but. It says nothing shall be impossible, period. And yet we keep putting clauses, conditional clauses at the end of the sentence because our faith isn't yet big enough. But when you conceive it in your mind, God at that moment is saying, go for it. You got this. He didn't say it was going to be easy. Didn't say it was going to happen overnight. I've been working on some things 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But if I look at where I'm at now, see, that's the thing is too, we live in a microwave society where if it's not happening now, it can't possibly happen. And so when we don't get something to work for us in 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe 2, we put it on the shelf because it can't be the timing. The timing, no. Some things you got to work on longer. But what I love about this thing is that everything you put into something has redemptive power. What do you mean? If I say, okay, I'm going to do something and it's going to take me 2 years to get it done, and it takes me 10, there's a redemptive power in what I've done. And what that means is I'm going to get the quality of life, the length of life, and the value of life out of the extra 8 years I put in. It's going to come to me multifold times what I thought I was going to get in 2 years. So if I thought I was going to get, let's use money, everybody talk about money. If I thought I was going to get 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, $1 million in 2 years, in 10 years, it's going to be 10 million. It took me longer to get there, but the time and extension of what I was expecting in 2 years is going to be multiplied at 10 years. It's not going to be what I was expecting in 2 years. So many people quit before the breakthrough because you don't understand the process of manifestation and gestation. First manifestation says, when I think it, at that moment, it becomes my truth and my reality, but it's in the 5th dimension. It's in the infancy stages of development. It has not yet come into the third dimension, which is three-dimensional things you can touch, feel, and see with your physical senses. It's in a spiritual realm that you have to be able to understand and distinguish and discern spiritually. And a lot of people haven't gotten there. So they don't even know what's floating around. Some of you now, you got to understand this thing is not negative or positive. It's what's believed, spoken, and thought. So if you think in negative thoughts, you're also manifesting negativity that you may not be able to see taking root in your physical life, but it's coming. Why? Because you manifested it by the way you're thinking, and then when it shows up, you don't know where it came from because you're not aware of the process that you have to go through. When I think it, it's manifested. Now, when I'm manifested, I got to understand the process of sowing a seed, because that's the greatest and most closest analogy. When I sow a seed, if I go out and I dig up the ground, I cultivate it, I get the weeds out, I clean it out, I got me a nice piece of fertile soil in which to plant a seed in. The first thing I do, I got to plant the seed that will bear the fruit that I desire. I can't plant a rose seed and get an oak tree. I've got to plant an acorn in order to get an oak tree. And so then that's the first thing, I got to plant the seed that I desire. Some of you are trying to get fruit from a seed that was never meant to bear it. But then you get it. Now it's there. It's planted. It's in the ground. What else do I have to do to it once I put it in there? Now I got to understand that it's going through a gestational period. When you plant a seed, depending on the seed you plant, there's a period of gestation where things are happening, where the metamorphosis is taking place, where you're actually starting to see things develop and change. You can't see it. Why? Because the seed was made to manifest in darkness. You're going through something right now and you're upset about it because you don't understand that the seed is manifesting and gestating in the darkness. There is darkness and you don't know how to handle it because nobody ever told you that God dwells in the darkness. See, that's the problem. You don't know because nobody ever told you to go check out 2 Chronicles, where Solomon says God dwells in the darkness, even the gross darkness. So darkness scares you. Darkness makes you feel down. And actually, darkness is the quiet place where you can get the most out of your relationship with God when you understand it. But anyway, the seed is there. Work with me, work with me, work with me, please. The seed is there. Okay, you've got it planted. The seed you want to produce the fruit you want is there. It's the seed, it's the thought, it's the seed. Now you cover it up. Now what do you got to do? I got to water it. I got to make sure that it's enough water to allow it to remain active. And if I allow it to remain active, what will it do? Anybody that understands how the seed will actually determine in and of itself what nutrients it needs from the soil in order to become what it was designed to become initially. You don't have to tell it. It'll go pull the nutrients out of the ground while also rejecting anything that it doesn't want and expecting you to cultivate the rest. So here's what happens. You plant the seed, you water the seed. Then the seed starts to go to work. Then you stand guard over the seed. That's where some of you are losing now. You're not standing guard over the seed. You put it out there in the universe, but you didn't stand guard over it. What happens? The scripture tells you that the roots of the weeds come up and the roots come up and start to choke it. Why? Because you didn't keep the weeds out. What are the weeds? The weeds are people who come up and tell you that what you're thinking is impossible. It's not realistic. It's not within your reach. The weeds are the people who will sit up and remind you of who you used to be instead of embracing what you're trying to become. The weeds are the one that are people that are sitting up that don't really know the whole you, but judging you based off of something someone else told them. The weeds are the things that are working against your idea of what you're capable of and what's possible in your life. You gotta de-weed and guard that seed. Then what happens? It moves into the fourth dimension. Oh, this is where it gets fun and interesting. The fourth dimension is you still can't see it, you can't touch it, but you can feel it. You can feel it in every cell of your body. It's a level of anticipation that if somebody asked you to explain it, you couldn't explain it. This nerd cat. Anyway, that's the fourth dimension, where you believe in it so strong now that the belief is starting to manifest itself in you physically. Your blood pressure is dropping. Your blood sugar is leveling off. Things the doctor told you were going to be on medication for forever. You're starting to see no need for the medication because the things that were bringing you down was the idea that you couldn't. And now that you're starting to see that you can, the anxiety is dissipating. The stress is dissipating. The worry is dissipating. So much is dissipating because you're believing. That's all it is. It's trusting at a level that says it's going to happen and I don't have to see it before I believe it. The energy is literally moving through the universe. And here's the beautiful thing. When you actually send that out to the universe by way of thought, and the universe examines your thought for the presence of faith, I want you to listen to me. When you send it out as an inkling of a manifestation, simply a thought, an idea, the universe receives it, and then it examines it for the presence of faith, or are you just tossing stuff out there? And then when the moment that the universe examines it, it says, there's a little faith, the universe begins to conspire with you. So that while you are literally thinking and cultivating, your faith is growing. That's what happens in those little things where you look at it and you say, man, I've been doing this and doing this. And every now and then there's a little something that happens that says, oh, wow, man, this is good. And it convinces you that it's possible. That's the universe working with you and conspiring with you to grow your faith. So you haven't gotten what you wanted yet, but you're not where you used to be either. The universe is conspiring with you. It's the way God designed it. We become stressed because we lose sight of God, especially God in us. And we focus on the problem. Whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever you center your focus on is what you're going to feel. If you focus on the problem is going to become huge. If you focus on the problem will become so big that you can't see around it. If you focus on the problem becomes the God in your life. Yes. Anytime that you're stressing, anytime that you're going through something and you're upset and you're stressing about it, it's because you've made your problem your God. Instead of seeing the God in you and start to look for the solution in that, because it's there. There's nothing bigger than God. There's nothing that stumps the mind of God. And there's no enigmatic issue on this earth or in this universe that the mind of God hasn't already solved. The answers are there. They're literally there. They're not, and I'm not talking about in some distant place. I'm talking about literally around you, in you and around you is where it's at right now. But you can't see it because you're focused on the problem. What you focus on, you will feel. God's trying to do something extraordinary. He's trying to make you a lender and not a borrower. He's trying to put you above and not beneath. And you're study trying to come in underneath everything. You're study worried about what you can borrow instead of what you can build. Say it one more time, don't be done. Stop worrying so much about what you can borrow and start focusing on what you can build. See, borrowing puts the power in someone else's hands. Building gives you control of the movement, the mechanisms, and the might. Maybe you'll have to borrow, but when you borrow, know how you're going to use what you borrow to build. If you're not borrowing to build, you are destroying your opportunities. When you borrow to build. Everything should be in an investment mindset. I'm investing in myself academically. I'm investing in myself through wisdom. I'm investing in myself in the way that I'm spending my money into my businesses, into other people. See, sometimes you're not investing in you, you're investing in others. But you've got to have a building mindset. Sometimes it's not about building you, it's building someone else. And through building them, you receive. It's so important that you understand that dynamic. If everything in life about you, you're missing. And one of the reasons why you are missing is because of this one thing. It says, I'm going to make you the lender and not the borrower. Wait a minute, what does that mean? The lender. See, it didn't just say that you're not going to need to borrow. That's not what it said. It said, I'm going to make you the lender and not the borrower. Well, see, the lender means that I'm going to expand your portion so much that not only do you not need to borrow, but you're able to expand other people. You're able to pour in other people. You're able to bless other people. See, I'm not just going to make you someone who doesn't need someone else's help. I'm going to make you the helper. The lender is not just somebody who doesn't need to borrow. The lender is the one who has enough portions that they can take care of themselves, their needs, their desires, and all that they want, and still have extra to pour into somebody else. That's what the lender is. Y'all missing the blessing because you're thinking small, expecting small, and anticipating too little. None of this is magic. I have to tell people that because a lot of people are infatuated with religion because they think it's magic. If I say I have faith, if I say 32 thank you Jesus and 25 I love you gods and 45 God is good, that life is just going to be grand for me, and that's not how it works. That's why you have non-believers taking principles out of the Bible and turning the world upside down, because they understand the principles and the dynamics involved, and that it's not magic, it's application. It should really bother someone who calls themselves a believer, talking specifically Christian, who calls themselves a believer. It should really bother you to look at somebody who doesn't claim the faith you claim, but takes your instrument, your sword, and is killing life, and is not cheating, not hurting anybody, is doing things because they understand the principle of reciprocity, the universal law of reciprocity, the law of cause and effect. They understand it. They understand what I put out comes back. If I want something good to come back, I got to put something good out. I got to be actively involved in the outcomes of my life. I'm not going to sit around and wait on God to do something for me. I'm going to go out and do it, and God will participate. Or in the case of them, maybe they don't recognize, they recognize the universal force, but don't recognize the universal source. Whatever that is, it's still working for them. That should really upset you because you recognize the force and the source, but you're not tapping into it. I mean, we've got to really look at this thing. We got to sit up and talk about. It's only so much talking before you got to start producing and delivering. And I'll leave this with you: if you're claiming a faith, whatever that faith is, and people can't look at your life and see you winning, how are you really representing the faith you're claiming? For Christians, how are you representing Christ and God when every time somebody looks at your life, you're getting your butt kicked and you're whining and you're complaining and you're always? How is somebody going to look at your life and want to be what you are? Then you can't be possibly representing what you're claiming. Because when you claim something and it's supposed to have an infinite power source and an infinite level of wisdom and knowledge, what is stopping you that you can't make progress? I'm not saying you're not going to run into things, because that's life. That's the challenge. What I'm saying is, are you ever going to win? Are you ever going to actually step out on faith so powerfully that you move a mountain? Or are you going to sit there and whine and complain about the mountain being in your way? Again, if you can conceive it in your mind, it's God's evidence that it's possible. Some of the most unbelievable things that we have at our disposal in this world came from a simple thought and meager beginnings. Not everybody had $1 million funding to do what they're doing now. Some people have done unbelievable things starting with very little, and you would never know it, but it's there. We are failing in accessing the power and the infinite wisdom and intelligence and knowledge and consciousness of God. And we are now focused more on the problem than we are on the source. And what happens? That problem becomes huge to the point that it becomes your God. It controls every thought of your day. It has your particular existence in a place that's not healthy for you. You're full of stress, worry, anxiety, hostility, anger, and all these things that are literally destroying you physically. I mean your health physically. Take your eyes off the problem and focus on the source. Make yourself attentive. Make yourself open. Expand your expectations. Expand your belief. Get God out of the box. On that note, I'm going to jump off here. You guys have an unbelievable day. I know this wasn't the normal, usual Quantum Physics Friday, but you need to be able to unpack that practically and understand how it works in your life. You know, it's good to talk about things and, you know, express the fact that you know about some things, but if you're not applying it to your life, I mean, one of the most frustrating things to me personally, having worked and did so much in women, I mean, literally having been counsel to pastors, one of the most frustrating things to me is see someone who can quote the Bible back and forth and live in misery, defeat, oppression, and depression. You quoted all of it, but you missed it all. Instead of trying to learn it all, quote it all, find your one. Just find your one and go inside, upside down, outside in, inside out, and every other way you can through it until it's just inculcated into your psyche, until you believe it inside and out, and ain't nobody can come along and change your mind about it. And then walk in that one until it just works for you. And then go back and grab you another one and then put it to work. You get you 2 or 3 of them and you can turn this world upside down. Yet, or you can go through and know them all and not activate any of them, and you get what you get. On that note, I'm gonna get out, like I always say, live your life on full. Live your life on full. And all that means is don't take any untapped potential to the grave with you. Dr. Miles Monroe talked about that a lot, that the wealthiest place in the cemetery, the wealthiest place in the world is a cemetery. You got books unwritten, messages unspoken, sermons unspoken, businesses not started. I mean, on and on, inventions not done. It was there, but you didn't go after it. You played small. And you ended up at the end of the life with so much untapped potential and took it to the grave. On that note, I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day. Live your life on full and down in.
From a conceptual perspective, people talk about a desire to be successful. All of the elements they think, intelligence, expertise. Hey, how much am I willing to give up and commitment? And are not committed to the struggle, acquiescing to the struggle, they're committed.